What's up, folks? How's it going? This is Waj. Hope you guys are all doing well. And in this video, we're doing another smartwatch comparison between the brand new version of the Moto 360, the second generation for 2015 and 2016, versus the Apple Watch that came out a couple of months ago. Now, we're going to be taking a look at the internal and external features, as well as other important things such as battery performance and customization options. So if you're interested in seeing which smartwatch is going to be the best choice for you personally, let's get right into it and find out which one is best. Now, interestingly, if you take a look at the new second generation version of the Moto 360, you'll see that Motorola hasn't really dramatically changed the smartwatch all that much compared to the original Moto 360. It still has that beautiful circular design with the thin overall bezels. Really, more than anything else, there's small little minor improvements that make the thing a little bit more usable for every day-to-day use. So, for example, the power standby button has been relocated from the 3 o'clock position to more the 2 o'clock position to make it a little bit more accessible to use, which is definitely a nice ergonomic touch. And additionally, now you have three essential versions of the Moto 360. You have the 42mm and the 46mm version, which is very similar to the original Moto 360. They also have a 42mm case design for females that have a little bit more color variation, as well as a smaller 16mm band option. Now, of course, everyone knows by now that there's a whole bunch of flavors on the Apple Watch side. You can either get two different sizes, whether that be 38mm or 42mm, and there's three essential models, and that includes the sports version, which is more the entry level. You have the standard Apple Watch, which comes with a sapphire crystal glass, which is a little bit more durable, as well as a couple of other stainless steel finishes. And then, of course, you have the Apple Watch Edition, which is a very high-end watch that comes in 18 karat gold options. Now, even though I think both watches offer pretty good general customization options, I think the new Moto 360 goes one step beyond the Apple Watch. If you take a look at the new Moto Maker software on the Motorola website, you can pretty much build your Moto 360 from the ground up. So not only do you have a couple of different styles to choose from, as well as different color combinations, so you can choose a different color for your case and your bezel, so whatever you like there. And the actual bezel itself has a couple of different finishes. You can get the traditional chamfered finish, or you can get the micro knurled finish, which is very nice if you want a more unique look on the watch. Now, physically, these two are quite different in terms of their design and overall dimensions. As you can see, we have the 46mm version of the Moto 360 second gen, and we have the 38mm version of the Apple Watch Sport. And in terms of the overall footprint and size, you can see the Moto 360 is larger than the 38mm version of the Apple Watch. And in terms of the thickness, the Apple Watch is also slightly thinner than the Moto 360 second generation by only 1mm. Now, from a durability standpoint, both are fairly good. They're both water resistant to some extent. In fact, the second generation version of the Moto 360 is now officially IP67 certified, so it's both dust and water resistant to some extent. Of course, watch out for different temperature changes and things like that. Furthermore, the watch faces are quite scratch resistant to some extent as well, so we're using Gorilla Glass 3 on the Moto 360, and we're using ion strengthened glass on the Apple Watch Sport. Now, in terms of the display specifications, the Moto 360 second generation has been upped in terms of resolution compared to the original 360. So the 46mm version is around 360 by 330 pixels, giving it a PPI count about 233. Now, the Apple Watch 38mm version comes in around 340 by 272 pixels, giving it a PPI about 290. Now, if you do get the 42mm version of the Apple Watch, it does increase your resolution and your PPI to about 302 PPI, which would give you a little bit better pixel density and a little bit better clarity on the screen itself. Now, in terms of looking at the displays themselves, the nice thing about the Apple Watch is using a Retina organic LED technology, so great color renditions, very bright in terms of outdoor usage. And the Moto 360 is using an LCD LED backlit display, which is also very bright, perhaps not as good in terms of dynamic range, so the black levels are not as good as what we expect on the Apple Watch, but a generally pretty good representation for a smartwatch. Now, one of my biggest complaints with the original Moto 360 is the internal capabilities were not that good, and it was a little bit sluggish. Now, with the new second generation Moto 360, things have improved quite a bit. We have the Snapdragon 400 chip, which is a quad-core CPU, clocked at around 1.2 GHz, much faster than the Texas Instruments chip that was in the original. We also have a faster GPU, the Adreno 305 chip, and 4 GB of internal memory, and about 512 MB of RAM. Now, the Apple Watch, on the other hand, comes with a custom custom designed S1 processor that's specifically optimized for the watch OS. We also have a PowerVR GPU, so things are very fluid and dynamic in terms of all the graphics processing capabilities on the Apple Watch, and we have 8 gigabytes of internal memory. Now, in everyday to-day use circumstance, I generally would say that the watch OS on the Apple Watch was a little bit more quicker in terms of response time. It just felt a little bit more connected, and even though there's much improvement from the second generation version of the Moto 360 compared to the original, it's still kind of sluggish at times and can be boggled down, and it's just not as quick to respond as the Apple Watch at this point. Now, in terms of the watch control options, both have voice control options, whether that's with Google Now on the Moto 360 or with Siri on the Apple Watch. You also have the capacitive touchscreen, which is your main mode of control. But because we have the digital crown interface on the Apple Watch, you have more variety in terms of what type of input you can actually put into different applications, and it feels a little bit more easier to use, especially with the watch OS that is designed around that digital crown interface. So I would generally say that it's a more pleasurable experience using the Apple Watch compared to a traditional smartwatch that mainly uses a capacitive touchscreen, which is not the most precise way to control your watch. Now, of course, like most of these smartwatches out there, both devices have optical heart rate monitors on the rear of the device, so you can use that to monitor your heart rate during an exercise or after an exercise, and of course they'll track your day-to-day fitness activities in terms of how many steps you've taken and how many calories you've burned throughout the day. Now, moving forward, let's talk about communication and compatibility options. Now, in terms of wireless communications, both interface with your smartphone using Bluetooth 4.0 technology, and they have 802.11 Wi-Fi built in as well. Now, in terms of compatibility, one really crucial thing happened very recently, and that is Google submitted an Android Wear app for the iOS platform, and that means you can essentially use most of the recent Google Android Wear devices on the iOS platform. So that means you can take the new Moto 360 that we have over here and use it with your iPhone. And that being said, there are some limited options in terms of what you can do with your Wear device. So you can't do things like respond to text messages and things like that. So it's limited in terms of what it can do compared to the Apple Watch, which has total integration and control over your iPhone. Now, you can still get notifications from your iPhone in terms of general text messages, in terms of emails. You can also use Google-based apps as well as Google Now search interface. So that's definitely very powerful and really expands the horizon of most of these Google Android Wear devices. Now, of course, the Apple Watch is specifically designed around the iOS platform, so you're pretty much stuck in terms of using it specifically for an iPhone. There's no compatibility with Android, which is understandable at this point. Now, last but not least, we're going to talk about the battery performance of both of these two smartwatches, and I pretty much use both of the smartwatches in the same way. For me, one of the main reasons why I wear a smartwatch in the first place is mainly for email and text notifications, as well as some social media integration stuff. But for the most part, it's mainly about how far I'm running every day, and of course, telling the time. Now, the results that you're looking at right now is the average amount of time that I got every day after 2 weeks of usage on both of these two smartwatches. So on average, I got about 11 hour 38 minutes of everyday usage on the Moto 360 second generation, and just around 10 hour 25 minutes on the Apple Watch Sport. Now, that's generally pretty good. I would say that the Apple Watch has a much smaller battery capacity, about 205 milliamp hours, and we have 400 milliamp hours on the Moto 360. So the Moto 360 isn't outstanding. In fact, I would say it's very much on par with the original Moto 360. So generally speaking, both of them are definitely passable, but certainly not mind-blowing battery performance that would get you a day and a half to 2 days of real-world usage. So therefore, just like every other device in this category, the battery life is certainly one area that definitely needs improvement. But really, on that, guys, that's really it. In terms of the price point itself, the Moto 360 second generation starts around $299. The Apple Watch starts around $350. So we have a lower entry level price on the Moto 360. And generally speaking, it's more of a minor improvement from the original. So if you liked some of the aspects of the original, but you didn't go for it, it's definitely a great watch to kind of get your foot wet into the smartwatch realm. The Apple Watch is just a great watch in general, especially if you're an iOS user, and it's really a no-brainer if you haven't gone for it already. But in terms of which one is right for you, hopefully this video gave you some sort of insight in terms of which parameters best suit your needs. But definitely let me know in a comment down below what you guys think. And also, we're going to have a couple of other smartwatches coming into the channel, the new Samsung S2, as well as the Asus Asus Zen watch, and there's always some cool stuff up ahead in terms of smartwatch content. So if you like this stuff, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But other than that, thanks again for watching. We'll see you later. Take care.